And everyone was just kind of fingers crossed, hoping that the tournament would give us this game. And instead, Niele Ivey, Lindsey Gottlieb said, we got y'all. And they have a home-and-home schedule, with the first one being today in the Galen Center in Los Angeles, California, where I had boots on the ground. How did this game go? What did the players and coaches have to say afterwards? I got you covered here on the No Cap Space postgame show. Maybe to the surprise of some, but not to the Irish themselves, Notre Dame led this game for the entirety of it. USC never once held the lead in this game. So, how did this happen? How did this happen? Frankly, it was about the Irish's defense, which Niele Ivey raved about in the post-game press conference, and how happy she was that they were being called a defensive team.
I would love to say that. I think as a coach, you always want to continue to improve, but I think we have capable defenders. It was something that we were focused on all summer long. I do feel like this group is a really great defensive team. I think we're still growing, we're still learning, which is great that we're only in game 5 and we can still have areas to improve. I think we have great senior leadership and experience, and just to see them follow the game plan and adjust. I had 4 guards on the floor. We were trying a lot of different things this week to prepare, and we got a chance to stick really on our first 2 game plans, which speaks a lot to the work ethic that they did today. So yes, I think they're a really great defensive team, and I still think there's areas for us to improve. So I'm really happy with that defensive effort and knowing that we set the tone with our defensive intensity.
And look, y'all, this was my first time getting to see Hannah Hidalgo in person, and let me tell you this, I put it out on Twitter, so make sure you're following there as well, or X, whatever. But the energy that Hannah Hidalgo plays with is ridiculous. It's insane. Literally the only player that I can compare it to that I've seen live with my own eyes is Russell Westbrook. So in the post-game press conference, I had to ask her, is this something that she is mindful of? Is this just Hannah Hidalgo? I had to know, so I asked. Tyler DeLuca, No Cap Space. Hannah, I'm interested for you, this entire game, after every whistle, everything, you're clapping, you're yelling, you're energized the entire time. It felt like you're on 100% stamina the entire game. I'm interested for you, like, is there like a level of pride with that, I guess, to kind of be the tone setter in a way for this team? Because it felt like everyone, whether it be on the defensive or offensive end, fed off the energy that you were bringing in this game. I'm just interested, is that something you're kind of mindful of, I guess, or is that just Hannah Hidalgo playing basketball?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for my team, I'm that energy. Like, I bring that energy, and I know my team feeds off of that. I know they feed off of when I'm diving on the floor, I'm getting stops. Like, when I'm running in transition, like, I know my team feeds off that. I know they need that. And then everyone else raises their level of intensity. I know Sonny talks about when I'm picking up in, full court, it makes it so much easier for her. I want to make the lives of my teammates a lot easier. So, I just always kind of have that pride because I know that's what they need from me.
And folks, we had Olivia Miles on to preview this season in our countdown to this season, and goodness gracious, she had talked about wanting to add the three-pointer to her game. And with notably Tyler Marsh, the Chicago Sky head coach, and Lyd Roberts, the LA Sparks head coach, in attendance, she cooked from 3 today. Did it in several different ways, was cooking 4 or 5 from 3. This is her second game with 4 threes, and that is a career high for her. It was exactly what you wanted to see if you're either of these coaches that are going to have, well, really, Lyd Roberts is going to have the tough decision alongside the rest of the LA Sparks. Who do they take at number 2? Because the other number 2 potential pick was also in this game, Kiki Iriofin. And Kiki has not been able, the stats have been there, but it still just doesn't seem comfortable for her. And Lindsey Gottlieb kind of had echoed the same sentiment in the post game, where like, it's just never easy. It hasn't been easy yet at all in the half-court offense, especially for any of USC so far in this season. Here's what Lindsey had to say about that, because I thought it was super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's on me. We have to get better with it. We've seen every type of game plan, so we want to play fast in transition before the game plan sets up, but we have to be better executing. We just do. We have to be, know what the play is, commit to running that play, and then make reads off of it. Because, if we're running a set and all of a sudden, Hannah's jumping the ball, well, you're not going to run the set through, but you got to be in the right spot so you know what the next right read is, and that's a growth and a learning, thing for us. We don't have small goals, we have big goals. And so wherever it is that we want to go, we're not going to get there just by, scoring in transition and being a team that doesn't get to what we want in the half court. And we have to do better with that. We have to have better communication on the floor. I have to, demand that of them better, and you'll see improvement there. I'm certain of that.
For Notre Dame, though, like I said, the defense was the biggest part of this here. The way that Sonia Citron played defense throughout this game, the way that the bigs came in and played defense, is really the unsung heroes of this Notre Dame team. We know so much about Hannah Hidalgo. We've heard so much about Olivia Miles, and rightfully so, because they have made their case today to be the best duo in the entire nation. But it's interesting to me how these other players really haven't gotten the shine, and they deserved it today. They absolutely deserved it. And I loved hearing Niele talk about the others surrounding them and the defense that they played. And that's what I can't get over, is that you have offensive talent like Olivia Miles. You have offensive talent like Hannah Hidalgo. And we left this game talking about Notre Dame being a defensive team. That probably wasn't what we expected to be talking about here. And to do so in a game where you also score 74, which is nothing to laugh at all. 74-61 win, that's very, very solid. Very, very solid. And they did it while making Juju Watkins have a game where, especially for Juju, and I echo kind of the same sentiment, where nothing has come easy for USC over the course of the season so far. And Juju makes everything look easy. We saw it all freshman year. Everything looked ridiculously easy. That 51-point game against Stanford, ridiculously easy. And it just hasn't come that way so far this season. And they did a fantastic job on that. And Sonia Citron was a big part of that. Here's what she had to say specifically about that matchup.
I think guarding Juju, obviously she's one of the best players in the country, and that came with a lot of preparation. So this whole week, Coach Ivy, Coach Mike, it was her scout, she really prepped us. So I was definitely watching a lot of film on Juju, on USC. And yeah, we were trying to deny her, just trying to make everything hard for her, honestly. That's what I came into today thinking about, that she's going to get her points. Obviously, she's a great player, but just really trying to make her work for it.
So now, what next? That is the question, especially for USC. Because Notre Dame, you're feeling fantastic. Because this is a team that still doesn't have Maddie Westbeld. This is a team that has more pieces to add, more pieces to come on deck. And right now, they look like, at worst, a top 3 team in the nation. And that's at worst. And we're going to see how the rest of this weekend plays out here in LA, because I'll have boots on the ground at South Carolina, UCLA as well. But I'm intrigued to see how the rankings go, because this now looks like a team that is easily one of the best teams in the nation. If it wasn't already, it's true now. And being able to do so here in a sold-out Galen Center, the energy was rocking. This crowd was begging for this team to bring them back into it. And it happened several times. The lead, I think, it got as low as 7 points in the first half to going into halftime. And I asked about the difference, because Lindsey Gottlieb in her opening statement had to say the difference between 7 and 3 going into halftime was major. And what is the hump to get past that? What is the difference from 7 to 3 for this team right now in terms of execution, in terms of how they can make that change? Here's what she said when I asked about that. Lindsey, Tyler DeLuca, no cap space. You mentioned at the beginning of the press conference about the difference between the 7 points versus 3 points going into halftime and whatnot. For you, those little differences, it might not seem a lot in the moment, but as they kind of add up, what do you feel like is kind of the blockade or the hump to get over for this team to make the difference between the 7 and the 3?
Yeah. First I'll say I never felt like we were playing great, so I wanted to kind of, and I thought the team was fighting, right? We got out in transition a couple times, but I think just from a mental standpoint, to go in the locker room and say, we haven't been good at this, and this, but, we're right here, is a little bit easier, when it's 3 versus 7. And I thought we battled, in that third quarter, but it's still a 7-point deficit going in instead of 3. So it's scores and stops. It's making a big shot. We're not, and we know this, we're not going to get where we want to go if we're shooting, 8% from 3, right? But it's also getting to the right shots and finding a rhythm, making your own breaks, getting stops when it's not going well for you. Because I do think we had a different level of aggression and transition in the second half. We got Juju going, we got Kiki going a little bit, but at that point, right, they're here too, and they're a really good team too. So if you can't kind of string together stops and scores, it's harder, especially when you're playing from behind. So when you get over that hump, maybe it defeats them a little bit. So it just didn't happen at the end of that first half.
Folks, to close, I'm telling you this right now. If you're surprised, don't be. I believe in this Notre Dame team. This Notre Dame team looks legit. And frankly, we've seen the struggles from USC. We saw it against Ole Miss, and Ole Miss didn't have the bucket getting to extend the lead when they had the defense in place. There were times where USC was able to spark some comebacks, but ultimately, because of Notre Dame's ability to continue to put points on the board, the defense was too much for USC to overcome. And they just could not string together stops like Lindsey Gottlieb just said. So for now, Notre Dame, you go celebrate. And you get ready for next year's game in South Bend, because that one is going to be just as electric. And I'm interested in seeing now what comes next for USC, because the schedule is still legit. There are still really solid opponents on deck. So how do you figure this out? The fluidity of last year has not arrived this year yet. How do you return to fluidity? How do you make life easy for a Juju Watkins? How do you make life easy for a Kiki Iriuffin? That's what we're going to find out. I'm going to be tapped in to see it. I hope you stay tapped in with me this weekend here in Los Angeles, because tomorrow I'll be boots on the ground as well with another post-game show for UCLA, South Carolina. LA is the center of the women's basketball universe this weekend, and I got you covered all the way throughout it. Stay tapped in. All the links down below for the Substack, the YouTube, subscribe, hit like, all of that, and I'll see you next time.